Welcome to the dynamics of everyday life, where we demystify some tricky concepts and get to know ourselves a little bit better. Welcome back to the dynamics of everyday life. This week I'm exploring procrastination, but not in the obvious ways. The title of this episode is, Why do I put off doing my tax return? And you could be forgiven for thinking, well, that's obvious. She puts off doing a tax return for lots of reasons. The big ones being that it's quite a dull job to do. There may be a few people out there who genuinely enjoy this, but I'm not sure that there are that many. And there's every possibility that there's going to be a bill to pay at the end of the process. Not this year though. I had quite a few changes to my working situation last tax year, and I didn't realise, until him indoors pointed it out, that I was going to be owed a fair amount back. Not enough for me to purchase my long dreamt of flat in Paris, but enough to make it worth my while sitting down for an afternoon and going through receipts. You would have thought that I would be chomping at the bit to get this done, but no. There I was, still dragging my heels around and moaning like a teenager who's been asked to tidy their room. It's a glamorous picture I'm painting, isn't it? There's an overused phrase, how you do anything is how you do everything. Now this type of phrase absolutely turns my stomach. It was smugly bandied around a lot during my first coach training, and if you questioned it, then you'd be met with a condescending look as if you didn't understand the finer nuances of the way our brains work. But let's be clear here. How you do anything is categorically not how you do everything. From a basic point of view, we're likely to do things that we enjoy and are important to us with a much more positive attitude than those we don't enjoy. Time to book a trip to Paris and sort out the restaurants? You don't need to ask me twice. Time to clean the fridge out? Yeah, I think I'm a bit busy. It can definitely wait until next week. But let's break this down even further. What about the stuff that we know will do us good? Or even where we're asking for what we need? And this is where it can start to get tricky. Going back to my example of my tax return, it was clear that I was owed some money back, and we all need money to survive. There was something that should be mine, and I needed it. If I'm honest, if it wasn't for my husband strongly encouraging me around this, then I'd be putting this off until January next year. And to be fair, he was absolutely right. Mine was one of the first to be returned, so I got my payment within a week of submitting. But I still put off asking for it, even when I knew that I was entitled to it. So what's going on here? It's got to be more than just being a bit British about it. One of the things that's happening is that we're finding ourselves in the grip of the repetition compulsion. Now, this might sound like I'm contradicting myself, but the repetition compulsion isn't about how we do everything. It's just what happens in certain scenarios that remind us of ones that we've been in previously. So time for a quick recap, as we've not talked about the repetition compulsion in quite some time. The repetition compulsion is where we repeat certain patterns of behaviour or find ourselves in strikingly similar relationships or situations, even though we've promised ourselves that we won't do it again. So with my tax return example, I know that I promised myself last year that I wouldn't let my accounts go on so long without me doing them. It is a very dull process, and if you leave it for months on end, it can feel like it takes forever. If I did them every month though, I'd be getting my return in by mid-April each year. It's not going to happen though. It doesn't matter how many times I promise myself this, I know I'm not going to do it. And this is one of the key things, even if someone else did it for me, I'd drag my heels around it. Now, I love the feeling once it's done though. I love knowing how my business has performed, what my bottom lines are, and what has worked well. I also love the feeling of not having to do it again for another year. So what am I repeating by dragging my heels? In this scenario, I think there's a couple of things going on. In not wanting to complete my return, I get worried that I'm going to get caught out for not doing something that I should have done. Now, I'm just going to point out here that whilst I don't enjoy doing my accounts, I am actually a bit of a big girly swat, and they are done meticulously when I do actually do them. Fun discussions around the Rogers dinner table can include whether something is tax deductible or not. Bet you're all desperate for a dinner invite now. However, I have an irrational fear that I've done something wrong and that I'm going to get into trouble for it. When I was thinking about this episode, I was thinking, I wonder where this stems back to. And I was reminded of a French exam I took when I was about 11. And it had appeared at the time that I hadn't done very well in it. And the teacher was so concerned that before he gave us our marks back, he went and spoke to my dad, who was also another teacher in the school at the time. It actually transpired that this teacher hadn't added up my marks correctly, which no one had actually spotted until I counted everything up when I got my paper back. I've never forgotten it, especially the sinking feeling of having done something wrong, even when I hadn't. And this is something I want to avoid at all costs. I fear HMRC coming back to me with a problem, despite me being really good with my accounts, and my husband, who does actually know his way around a tax return, doing them for me. This year was different though, as it had the added incentive of me getting some tax back. And yet, I still struggled with it. I didn't want to do it at all. Was there still some worry about getting something wrong? Well, yes, very likely there was. And there was something else too. We can find it very difficult to ask for what we need, and this can also play into the repetition compulsion. One way of looking at the repetition compulsion is by us trying to master a situation that has caused us trauma in the past, that by replaying it we're going to get the outcome that we want. And we can hope that by repeating our pattern of not asking for what we need, that someone's going to work out that we need something and give it to us. In my tax return situation, this would be someone at HMRC miraculously looking into my accounts, working out I was owed something and sending it back to me, instead of me actually having to ask for it. When I think about it, this possibly isn't the best example here. So let's use the example of someone not asking for their needs to be met in a relationship. They're repeating the behaviour of keeping quiet about what they need in the hope that the other person will work it out and give them what they need, as asking for it can feel a bit demanding. And that would go against our patterns of behaviour. And when we work out what we're doing, we can think about changing and then berate ourselves for procrastinating about making the change when, in reality, it's very difficult to break out of the repetition compulsion if you don't know that it's happening. It's hard when you know it's there, but at least the awareness means you're one step further along. My invitation to you this week is for you to consider where in your life you might be procrastinating, and if it's actually more than that. It's the repetition compulsion coming out to play. Is it a pattern that you find yourself in time and time again? And if so, what might this be telling you about yourself? And, as always, give yourself some grace. Realising that there might be something deeper at play than procrastination can be confronting and make us feel a bit uncomfortable. Rest assured, this is something that we all do, because it makes our brains feel safe, even if it doesn't feel like it at the time. Looking at ourselves at this level can be challenging and unnerving as we develop our awareness, so I'd always encourage that you do this at your own speed. If you feel you need some extra help around this, then I've put together a PDF resource sheet and you can find the link for this in the show notes. If you'd like to have a chat with me about psychodynamics or whether I'm the right trainer, coach, supervisor or mentor for you, then click on the link that's also in the show notes. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Dynamics of Everyday Life. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. As well as producing this podcast, The Dynamics of Everyday Life has lots more psychodynamic fun going on, and you can find out more at dynamicsofeveryday.life.